Hello, everybody. Welcome to my third PowerPoint presentation. This time we're going to be reviewing the book Black Skin, White Masks, written by Frantz Fanon. Let's get on with it. Introduction. Through fairly brief paragraphs, today I'll be writing a book report on the book Black Skin, White Masks, written by Frantz Fanon and published in 1952. Frantz Fanon, born 1925, died 1961, was born in Martinique and studied medicine in France, specializing in psychiatry. Chapter 1 Summary. In Chapter 1, Fanon describes the experience of black Antilleans who traveled to France and became whiter by assimilating into the colonial culture and language. Fanon explains that when these Antilleans return to their homeland, they are treated as superior, which encourages them to act in a haughty manner. Frantz Fanon made a very important and impactful statement on the page 18 of the current chapter. He states that all the acts of the black man is to be a good nigger, and the rest will follow on its own. A very important message indeed. Fanon concludes the chapter by pointing out that some say Aimé Césaire, if that's how you pronounce that name, has more skillful command of the French language than any white Frenchman. Chapter 2 Summary. In Chapter 2, we start by exploring Mayotte. Jesus, these people's names. Mayotte Capetia's, that's how I'm going to say that. Autobiography novel. I am a Martinican woman. Oh my god, my vocabulary. About a black woman obsessed with marrying a white man, despite her knowing that white men would always see her as inferior to them. The novel was very popular, but Fanon disapproved of it because it advocated unhealthy behavior. Fanon then turns to a novel, Nini, by Abdoulaye Sadji. The main character of this book is a biracial Senegalese woman who rejects the advances of a black man who was devoted to her because she wants to marry a white man. Yikes. That sucks. Chapter 3 Summary. Fanon looks at a reverse version of last chapter's situation, black men who want to sleep with white women. This time he uses René Morin's autobiography, A Man Like Any Other, which is about a black Antillean named Jean Vigneus who lives in Bordeaux, that's how I'm going to say that, Bordeaux, France. Jean is talented but neurotic. He is desperate to prove himself to others. He's in love with a white woman, although he has white friends who accept him, they do so on the condition of him renouncing his blackness. This only causes him further psychological torment. Chapter 4 Summary. In this chapter, Fanon discusses Octave Manoni's book, The Psychology of Colonization. In this book, Manoni analyzes the psychology relationship between the colonizer and the colonized. Fanon criticizes Manoni's argument about the inferiority complex of colonized people originating naturally in early childhood. He argues instead that the inferiority complex is a direct consequence of the colonization. Fanon also rejects Manoni's argument that the best sides of European culture are not responsible for colonialism, arguing instead that all of Europe is complicit in colonial violence. Finally, he concludes that Manoni does not truly understand Malagasy culture, or have any sense of what this culture could be like if liberated from colonial oppression. Chapter 5 Summary. Chapter 5 begins with Fanon describing a sitting on a train in which a white child fearfully exclaimed, "Look, a Negro!" This interaction deeply pains Fanon, who feels intense anger in response of a child being fearful of him. He explains how racism can create a feeling of alienation from one's own body. Fanon examines the history of how science was used to justify racism, arguing that science should be ashamed of itself. For the 6th chapter, Fanon evaluates whether psychoanalytic concepts can be usefully applied to the black experience. He argues that the family lives in early childhoods of white people are different from those of black people simply because of virtue and racism and colonialism, and therefore many predominant psychoanalytic theories developed by white Europeans don't hold true for many people of color. Fanon concludes with this chapter of the case study of a white woman who suffered from tics, was diagnosed with a symptom of her fear. Fanon concludes the chapter with the case study of a white woman who suffered from tics, who was diagnosed as a symptom of her fear of black people. I'm going to have to edit this so hard. Chapter 7 Summary. Chapter 7 considers the work of psychoanalyst Alfred Adler. Fanon supports certain aspects of Adler's writing while noting that Adler's views while noting that Adler views psychology too much in the individual terms without considering societal issues like racism. He considers the ways of psychological dynamic of master and slave still lingers today. Even after slavery has been abolished. Finally, in conclusion, Fanon admits that different colonized populations from around the world will need their own specific solutions to the problems he has previously identified. He resolves not to become obsessed with the past, but instead focus on the present, dedicating himself to ensuring that no one will ever get enslaved again. He ends the book with the appeal to true open-mindedness and the prayer that he will always be a man who questions. That's the end.